Garrow, truth and victory are often opposed to each other. I think quite often they are the same, that by pursuing truth you can achieve victory, but sometimes they diverge. And yes, activism is in that sense the victory side of it. I'm better at the truth side. I'm not as attuned towards the victory side of the argument. That's more the Ilinskian tactic. If you pursue victory without truth, that's more of the Ilinskian tactics that I recognize the value in that in the immediate, but I don't think it's a good long-term strategy.
I don't think that they're inherently opposed to one another. But again, we've been over this. I think that you can't convince the masses without essentially lying to them a little bit, because the masses will only believe pleasant lies. But that's different. That's a different conversation about it.
Truth and victory don't have to be opposed. Sometimes they line up. And I like when they do.
I mean, I'm completely, I am 100% completely devoted to the truth. That's why I do what I do. Why I go crawl through all these stupid papers and read all this shit and debunk it. It's because I just care about the truth. But that doesn't speak to the average person very well. Emotions is what speaks to people. Feelings, not fact.
Feelings are not useless, though. It's what our species has relied on.
That's what I'm saying. No, that's what I'm saying. Feelings are the most important thing. Fact is actually extremely useless. I mean, in terms of what matters to the average person.
I think in most cases, the facts are what informs what ultimately becomes the feelings later. With a lot of layers of abstraction.
Maybe. Maybe I have to think about that.
Our opponents,
that doesn't make sense to me.
Our opponents captured the institutions. Essentially, they took the intellectuals, and the other intellectuals betrayed the people, and then they guided how people felt through normalization.
You don't understand. From within I can tell you from within the ivory tower, having been there, is that once you're out, you are not part of the ivory. You're in the ivory tower, but you're not part of the system, right? You know, I was rereading this book. Or no, not rereading. I'd never read this one before until recently. It's Ferguson and Markey from 2017, or Markey and Ferguson, which was talking about the science wars of 2010, about the games discussion stuff. And they were describing that and a bunch of other stuff. It's a pop psych book, so I'd never read it. They called us the Rebel Alliance because they're being very gay. But it's true, is that we got everybody. I went and reread, I didn't even know this, that there was a 2013 letter that was signed by 263 academics to tell the APA to drop their absolute bullshit, saying that the APA, the American Psychological Association, had determined in 2005 and made as a part of their statement of fact that there was incontrovertible proof that games caused violence. 263 authors, academics in 2015 signed a letter saying, no, there's no evidence for this, and we all are signing our names to that. The APA just told them to go kick sand, right? I noticed that both of my advisors were on that list. I didn't even know that because it was a year before I started grad school. But it was like I didn't know that even from the beginning on my academic journey or whatever, that I was always in that Rebel Alliance shit. But the reality is that there are rogue academics or fringe academics, but we don't get the publication. We don't get the attention that anyone else gets, and never have, and never will, because the regime has things that it wants to sell. Like video games cause violence, or I don't know, immigration is good, diversity is our strength. That whatever the regime wants to promote, it will promote. Do you understand what I mean? They will find evidence within the research to back it up. And they will promote academics to create the science.
And that, unfortunately, for them, is not an eternal strategy. Eventually, they run out of authority. They run out of legitimacy. Right now, for the last 10 years, roughly, they have been selling legitimacy to buy momentary power, psychopath style. They will run out. They're already running out. They're already near the end of that legitimacy. About half the country in the US doesn't feel the current leader is legitimate.
But what will they do?
What they're already doing.
I've looked at I look at the Pew data
need that legitimacy to wield power. Because if they keep spending it like this, if they're on a downward trajectory, they keep spending it, eventually people will just say, no,
you're talking about social
on a
capital.
large scale, it would gradually... Social capital is one way of putting it, sort of, but either way, the perceived legitimacy. If someone perceives that this is the person that's in charge, I will do what they say. Well, what if they're so capricious and evil and cheating that eventually people realize maybe they shouldn't be in charge. That does happen eventually. It takes a long time, but that's legitimacy. And that legitimacy is sold for expedient power, for momentary power. That's exactly what cheating in the 2020 election is. They sell a part of the legitimacy in the opinion of a lot of people that saw the cheating in order to get the win in the moment. Our opponent are using a short-term crash and burn strategy, and we are using a long-term build and truth strategy.
I hope that's accurate. However, you've of course heard the criticisms that Scrump and I had about that.